Hi again, year 13. Mr. Sinclair here, just running through forms of business ownership. We're going to look now at partnerships. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff, a little bit like sole traders. So what is a partnership? When two or more people combine to form a business. Common examples would be architects, solicitors, accountants. So what we might call the professions. You see a lot of them in Bangor. Along Hamilton Road and Main Street, actually, there are quite a few of these types of firms. Generally small in size and employ few workers. There are an estimated over 500,000 partnerships in the UK, most of them with no other staff. So basically that means, it doesn't mean no one works there, it means like two partners, for example, 2 or 3 partners in the partnership, and they're the only people who work there. 3 main types. So the first one, the most common one, is a general partnership, which is governed essentially by the Partnership Act of 1890. So this type of business organisation has been around for a long time. You don't need to know the name of that act or the date really for your exam. It's the most common form, between 2 and 20 partners, so 20 is the upper limit. Partners are involved in the day-to-day running of the firm. If you want to get an investor to come in and put their money into the business and share in the profits, but you don't want them to have a day-to-day say in how the business is run, then that is somebody called a sleeping partner. It's got nothing to do with your nocturnal habits. It's just really a financier. But each partner in a general partnership has unlimited liability, and that would include the sleeping partner. So think carefully before you sign up to help bankroll some of your buddies' business ventures under the auspices of you're just a sleeping partner, you don't have to be involved. Because if they do something wrong and they run up big debts, then you would be equally liable for any debts that they have run up, even if you didn't know about them. So be aware. Limited partnership, you've got the relevant legislation there. Again, you don't need to pay too much heed to the legislation. This is actually trying to address the issue of the sleeping partner, the financial partner, the investor essentially, putting money into the business, not having a say in the running of the business, and then having the downside of unlimited liability. And this is trying to get away from that. The idea is that if you have a limited partner, then that limited partner has limited liability. So you can only lose, the worst case scenario, the money that was invested in the business. So if you put £5,000 in and everything goes wrong, the business is shut down, and all partners are declared bankrupt essentially, then you can only lose what was put into the business. Okay, to protect potential creditors, customers and suppliers, let's say, of the business, of the partnership, then at least one partner must have unlimited liability. Okay, and then one person must have limited liability. So simplest analogy would be, say 2 guys set up a fast food joint and they're set up as a partnership. Both of them have unlimited liability, and then they decide, hey, we should get someone to put some more money in. Uncle Dave just won the lottery. He can give us, 15,000 quid to invest in new machinery, or get an extension on the premises or something like that. But let's not have him interfering in the business. So we'll offer to share profits with him, pro rata with his investment, the value of the assets, and but we'll protect him. We'll protect him from unlimited liability. We'll make him a limited partner, and then worst case scenario, he would lose his original investment, but he wouldn't lose his house and his car and his personal possessions. Okay, so just to clarify one step further, I'll stop boring you about this in just a moment. So a sleeping partner in a general partnership chooses not to become involved in the running of the business, so they still have unlimited liability. Whereas in a limited partnership, the limited partner must not take part in the running of the business, and that is what gives them limited liability status. Okay, you can pause that and look over that in your own time. Thirdly and finally, limited liability partnership, LLP. In an LLP, this is the next stage towards along a sliding scale between unlimited liability through to limited liability. In this case, everybody's got limited liability. All partners have limited liability, and all partners can take part in the running of the business. That is the limited liability partnership. That means it's a corporate body. That is, it has its own legal existence. If it ran up debts, if the business ran up debts, then the business itself could be sued, and not necessarily the individual partners. Okay. Now, we could get into all sorts of accounts and so on here, but LLPs are different in that they do not pay themselves any tax. Essentially what happens is when you go through you go turnover, take away cost of sales, gross profit, take away expenses, net profit. At that point, then the profits would be distributed to partners. Well, that's assuming they haven't been reinvested in the business, which could happen. But if the partners all vote and they decide to take money out as drawings, then they would then be distributed to the different partners, who would then pay income tax at whatever level. It just depends on the thresholds, which I'm not going to get into here. We're just getting into too much detail about stuff you won't be asked. Okay, it's a relatively rare form of business. As you can see, it's kind of complicated. It has become popular amongst financial institutions such as PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG. You may be able to find out more information about it on their websites. Okay, to set up a general partnership in particular, there's no specific legal requirements. It would be sensible to draw up a partnership deed. That's essentially a contract between partners saying, right, this is how much capital. Well, first of all, you'd say, what's the name of the business and who are the partners and how much capital is each partner putting in and how will profits be shared and who does what in terms of roles and responsibilities and how you going to decide on if one partner wants another partner to join in, and invest in the business. How will you resolve that? What if one partner wants to leave the partnership? Then how are you going to do that? What's the process? So yeah, it's just basically trying to avoid arguments. Okay, so there's a list of stuff. I kind of waffled about some of this already, so you can look at it. Pause and read through it. Yeah, we did this in class. Don't worry about that right now. If you want to do that as revision, go for it, but that's a little bit basic considering the level we should be at this week. Okay, advantages. You got extra money coming in. You bring in a business partner. One of the main reasons is bringing in more dosh. More skills, hopefully. So if one of you is very good at marketing, like I was talking about earlier, maybe the other guy, he's got maybe experience working in warehousing and operations management, managing stock and minimizing waste and all that kind of stuff, logistical stuff, then that might be skills that they're bringing. Or maybe they've got a background in accounting and they're going to come and oversee the books. That could be really valuable. And also you can share the workload. So if one of you wants to go on holiday, the other person can take charge until you come back and then they can go on holiday, so you can share it out. Downsides: unlimited liability for a general partnership in particular. You have to share the profit now. You've shared the capital. You've got more capital in the business, but then you can't keep all the profit. So that may be a downside. You may have disagreements. That's probably the biggest problem. Between disagreements and unlimited liability, those are probably the two biggest issues, because, of course, now you've got this issue where you've got more capital put into the business, but you're also liable for your partner's decisions. So if they decide to invest some of the cash from the business or capital into a venture which is not profitable and ultimately loses the business money, let's say it could destroy the business and you could end up liable for the debts caused by decisions of your business partner. And that's a legal angle. You can't just say, oh, it wasn't my fault, he did it, I didn't know he was doing it. You're still liable, so you've got to tread very carefully. Disagreements are common. Really, if you get a partnership deed, that's pretty essential, because you may assume that you're both thinking along the same lines. Well, in fact, you're assuming that the other person is thinking exactly the same as you, and that's not necessarily the case. And you may not find that out until he decides he wants to take out all the profits as drawings, essentially as an income, whereas you thought that we were just going to keep reinvesting all the profits and build the business. So you need to make sure you iron those things out at the start to avoid arguments later on. Another downside is shortage of capital. So you just, if there's only two or three of you putting money in, well, that may be difficult. And unless you're going to become a limited partnership, you may struggle to invite other investors to come on board. Okay, that's it.